So good afternoon, everyone. For those of us on the East Coast, for everyone else, good morning. Thank you for taking the time to join today's webinar on AgentX. My name is Dave Novacek. My role here at SolutionsX is Vice President of Innovation Strategy. Over the next half hour, 40 minutes, we are going to be walking through exactly what AgentX is and how I believe it's going to be able to benefit everyone on this call. From a housekeeping perspective, please feel free to utilize the chat. If you have any questions, we'll be jumping to the questions at the conclusion of the webinar. And then from a review or accessing this recording, we are going to be making this recording available to everyone who joins, and we probably will also be publishing this on our website. So just a little bit of housekeeping just to make sure that everyone knows how to ask questions and then how to review this later. So for today, topic AgentX. Really exciting, innovative product here at SolutionsX that we are pushing out. And really the entire focus of AgentX is how do we transform our organizations who have implemented or recently implemented or have implemented CloudSuite Industrial SyteLine, right? So we want to transition from, it's a tool that transitions from ERP knowledge to real-time actions. It's an agentic AI tool and platform that allows us to provide our user community with contextual, implementation-aware guidance grounded by how your system actually runs. Typically, in SyteLine or in an implementation, the system isn't the problem. The problem tends to be how we transition knowledge to our end users, not only from the core project team, but when we have generational users in that community, how that information is transitioned from the project team to the people the project team trained to the people the project team trained, right? So how do we avoid all of that knowledge drift that occurs during and post implementation of SyteLine? So what AgentX is not, right? It is not a generic chatbot that we just load, how to use SyteLine documents into. What it is, it's a contextually aware system that understands how we implemented SyteLine or CloudSuite Industrial. It allows our users to communicate with the system in natural language. The objective is we want to reduce the dependency on your core project team or IT, or even having to send an email to the consultant to help you implement it because we forgot or we didn't take good enough notes. And we want to drive adoption within your user community to use a system. We don't want over time to have where we start to have subsystems generated or Excel spreadsheets generated because we forgot what we could do or decisions that we made during implementation. We spend a lot of time and effort implementing the solution, right? Many months, hundreds of hours of our team making decisions for the right reasons that are business specific to impact the future. And we don't want to lose that knowledge as soon as we go live or months from go live. So again, the core here, the key message that I want to take away, and then we're going to jump right into the solution so you guys can see it. We want to close that knowledge gap. We want to make sure that our expertise is accessible to everyone the moment they need it so that they don't have to wait for an answer from either a phone call, an email, or a Teams message. We want to help accelerate decisions, right? So we want to be able to ask questions, communicate with a solution that understands why decisions were made, how they were made, so that we can have and close and shorten our resolution time dramatically on those questions. And we also want to increase our measurable ROI, right? So we want to reduce the dependency on those small group of core team members that we included in the implementation. And we want to extend that knowledge across the organization to every user that accesses SyteLine, right? So fundamentally, we want to change how teams interact with ERP. So let's take a look at AgentX. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. So the first thing that I want to point out about AgentX, it is accessed via a browser. And so what we are going to see from a user interface perspective is, oops, bear with me. That was the wrong button. There we go. Is that the solution is accessed via a browser. We decided and made the decision to have somewhat of a clean interface, a interface that users would be familiar with, meaning, hey, I just want a chat window, right? I want to be able to ask a question free form. We can push this out to not only a browser, so your users can access it from wherever they are, but we can include it in a widget on an InfoRS homepage. We can also add it to the in context pane so it can pull out from the side so your users can access it from there. Primary decision on the user interface being the way it is, so that whether it's in a large format or a small format, users are going to have the ability to access. So just like you would expect, I can click in the Ask Me Anything area, and I will be able to ask questions. One thing I do want to point out is we do have an upload button here. So if we do generate documentation, and we want to upload that, we do have the ability to upload right from the interface. So if we've updated documentation or we've created new documentation, we can upload it right from here. How AgentX is going to work before I ask questions is we rely on a knowledge base that your users and you are going to have the ability to upload documentation into. And that is what is going to build and be the foundation for all of the answers that AgentX is going to generate. So whether that is transcripts, whether that is, from phone calls or meetings, whether that is PDF documentation, Word documentation, images, we are going to be able to include that into the knowledge base that AgentX will have access to. So the first thing that I want to do is, hey, AgentX, what can you do, right? Let's understand, maybe a user doesn't understand AgentX, and they just want to ask the question on, hey, what are you capable of? What can I do with AgentX? And so, hi, I'm AgentX, your assistant. I have the ability to answer process-related questions. I can explain forms and configurations. I can troubleshoot issues. I can talk about scope customizations. I can reference technical details, right? So I have the ability to communicate with this in a variety of topics that are more in depth than just, hey, how do I create a purchase order? Now, of course, that's something we want it to be able to answer. But let's say, I'm in marketing. I don't go into SyteLine that often, and I want to understand, how can I use some fields? I want to start tracking things for a customer that I can use for marketing purposes. So let's ask it. I want to track attributes about a customer that I can use for marketing purposes. How should I do that? Right? So I have no idea where I need to go. I don't really know what I'm trying to do, but I understand conceptually, hey, I want to have fields that I can use for marketing later on, specific to a customer. What should I do? So AgentX is going to take a look at what area of the system I should do and what recommendation is going to provide a recommendation for me. So saying, hey, use user-defined fields on the customer's form. You have 35 user-defined fields, right, per IDO without having to touch schema. And I think that's important, right? AgentX mission is to help you leverage a system, not just modify right away the system, right? So it's saying, hey, you can use the user-defined fields. You're going to have 6 fields of each type, right, on the customer's form. If you exhaust those and you need a more complex structure, you can use and create, UDF fields. So it's trying to provide the answer where I don't have to modify the system or alter the system or configure the system. But if that's not going to be enough, here's one way that you can do it. so that you can get what you need. Now, of course, it's going to ask me, is there a part of this process I want to go deeper on? So I could ask, some follow-up questions and start asking that. But for the purposes of this, I think I'm going to move on, right? Because it helped me answer that. So now, of course, hey, how do I create a purchase order? That's an easy one. I think everyone would expect that can answer that. And of course, when it's saying, when it answers that question, the key thing is it's going to look for AgentX looks for two possible answers here. So number one, are there any unique or specific processes our organization has defined for creating a purchase order? If there are, it's going to present that. If there's not, then it's going to say, okay, here's the standard way that we recommend you create a purchase order within SyteLine. So in this case, we don't have a custom process for purchase orders. Here's what I need to do to create that purchase order. Now that's a simple one that we would expect AgentX to be able to handle. But what about, how do I do a three-way match? Now, the reason I like to put this, how do I do a three-way match? The reason I like to use this as an example is there are no, in all of the SyteLine documentation, there is no such thing or no wording that says this is how you perform a three-way match, right? And so what AgentX is doing is looking at how do we process purchasing and receiving into the finance side. It understands what a three-way match is, and so it's going to be able to provide context and an answer on how we do that three-way match. So here's an example of how we do a three-way match. That doesn't exist in the current knowledge base, but it was able to provide that answer for me. Now, there was a reference to, in, hey, AgentX, what can I do? It has the ability to explain forms and configuration, as well as reference technical details. So let's say I am in finance and I want to understand, hey, what happens when I hit this process button for invoice posting? All right, so let's ask it that. What happens when I press process on invoice posting? Because maybe I just need to understand, okay, when I hit that process button, what happens? What am I, what technically is going to occur? And in the system, what does it do? What's it going to do next? Right. And so these types of questions to help me understand how the system works, right? So when you process an invoice posting, the system validates all unposted invoices, debit memos, and credit memos, right? Before it runs, the system checks if the accounting period is open. So it's, again, walking through exactly what happens, what events run, what method calls are called, right? Here's what's going to happen when I hit that invoice posting button. Now, there's going to also be some areas where, hey, I'm thinking about using this area of CloudSuite Industrial. I've never used it before. What's it good for? How should I think about using it? Good example of that is IDM. Maybe as an organization, we've never used IDM before. And so let's ask it, what are good use cases for IDM? Mainly thinking about this is, think about areas of the system we made a decision not to implement during our initial implementation. Several months go by, we want to look into that again. So I'm going to be able to ask AgentX, hey, what is that again? How do I use it? What's it good for? Help me make that decision. So in this case, I'm going to ask it, what are some good use cases for IDM? I forget what it's good for. I forget what it's used for. I forget how to use it. Help me out. So it's going to go through and it is going to generate some use cases. It's going to tell me exactly what I'm looking for so that I can make a better decision on whether or not I'm going to use that area of the system. Now, in this case, IDM has a lot of use cases, right? And so what it's going through and doing is asking me, what are good use cases? It has to go through a lot of documentation. It has to go through a lot of how our system is configured to tell me, here are some ways in which we think you can use IDM. Now, another good question besides the IDM example that we might want to look at is, so here we go. So IDM is central repository for managing business documents related to ERP documents, right? And so it's going to walk through how I might think about wanting to use it, what I might want to do with it, right? And then I can go further there. So if I have some follow-up questions, like if I want to show me some IDM workflows that I can set up. It talks about integrating with the OS portal, right, and related information widgets. So I can then follow up and ask those questions if this is the prime topic I'm concerned with. Now, some other areas or some other questions. Think about, so AgentX, we need it to be our repository of knowledge, not just for implementation, but for the entire organization. So think about all documentation that you have to run your company, right? So anything that's an employee handbook, or maybe we have other, here's exactly how we want to use Microsoft Word as a company. Here's our rules for you pick a topic. We can have that be part of the knowledge base as well. So I want to go on vacation. I forgot how to request time off. So what AgentX is going to do is, hey, you forgot how to request time off. Let me remind you, right? So think about it. We now have the ability to query this for anything specific to our company. So in this case, so I loaded, hey, at Solutions X, you request time off by sending an email to me, include the dates requested, so on and so forth, right? So any process that you have as an organization can be included in here. It doesn't just have to be SyteLine specific information or documentation. Extending from this, I need to create an expense report. I forgot how much I can expense for lunch. I eat a lot, and so before I go out to lunch today, I want to remember exactly how much food I can buy when I'm expensing, when I'm creating an expense report for lunch. So the maximum you can expense for a meal is $45 a meal, right? And then it extends that and saying, okay, here's how we create an expense report here at Solutions X. Now, in this case, this is a specific process where we're using the service module to create expense reports, not specifically doing it for service orders, but creating an expense report within an SRO. We've also included in here, hey, look, for reference, mileage reimbursement is 55 cents a mile. Hotel expenses are required documented approval from Brian Miller, and airfare requires documented approval from Mr. Trout. Always enter expenses daily or immediately after travel, right? And so it is able to walk through not only the process, but when I've included specific areas that we have to pay attention to. And then in this case, okay, great. So I could follow up and say, okay, I want to create the expense report, help me walk through what I need to do. But I'm gonna move on to going into this, right? We talk about a custom process that we've developed. Do I have any custom forms? right? So I want to understand any customizations that I have. So think about all the custom reports that you have generated or created, all the custom fields that you have created, any modification that you have done into the system. We are able to include that in AgentX's documentation. So that way we can contextually understand not only what you're doing, but how you're doing it. So in this case, yeah, I have a custom trade show activity form. Here's the name of it. Here's exactly the contents of it, what we're doing with it. Now, in this case, our custom trade show activity form integrates with a custom commission calculation enhancement that we have done. That's interesting. Maybe I want to understand further, what is that custom commission calculation? So let's actually go in and understand that. So how does the custom commission work? And I'm purposely going to spell commission wrong, primarily because, again, I'm typing fast, I'm communicating. It doesn't have to be spelled perfect. It's going to be able to understand what the point I'm trying to get, or the question I'm trying to ask, and answer that question. So in this case, we talked about our custom form that we've created. It tells me exactly what it's going to include. And then I asked about the custom commission statement, or custom commission calculation. And in this case, it's telling me how it's being calculated. So we have, when an invoice is generated, we have an ext gen that checks the lead source by querying our custom form. If a matching lead exists, it validates the time window by calculating number of days, right? So on and so forth. If the order is within 60 days of the trade show, right? So this is very custom and unique to how I operate. So in this case, it's being able to walk through that for me. So this is handling, okay, I've handled a standard process. We've handled a custom process. We've asked about processes that don't exist in SyteLine. How do I create an expense report? Now, let's say I'm a customer service rep, and I have a concept. I have an idea. Man, I think that we need to start tracking the weather. Is that something that I should request IT create a customization for, right? So I'm just going to ask you that. Should I create a new form to track the weather? Right? Your user community has plenty of good ideas where they think they can improve how we operate. They're going to be able to engage with AgentX and ask it those questions to get feedback to help further refine their thought, help create an enhancement request that they can pass up the chain. So first answer I'm getting back, no, I probably shouldn't create a new form to track the weather unless I have specific business requirement tied to a process that impacts weather-related data. Weather tracking has no connection to standard manufacturing, financial, or supply chain operations in SyteLine. Custom forms could solve business problems tied back to costing and scheduling or compliance. So before we create a custom form, let me ask this 3 questions, right? And so then it's going to go through, it's going to ask me those questions. And then now I can start to engage with it, and I can ask it or answer some of those questions. I can refine my statement. And it even tells me, hey, your trade show activity form works because it tracks leads that convert into sales orders, drives commission calculations, and feeds a customer pipeline. Weather data does not have that same transactional linkage unless, right, certain key points are met. So if we have that requirement, let's document the business case first. And so it can help me document that business case, build out a strong reason on why we should do that. Now, in this case, I've inserted in our knowledge base that, hey, if something complex comes up, or if there is a question that is still a little fuzzy, email me, right? So in this case, it's saying, hey, reach out to David and ask for the best approach or further follow-up questions. So in this case, I'm going to say, you know what? I just want to keep notes of the day and weather. Nothing too complex. So again, this is, just kind of me reading through, okay, AgentX, I'm hearing your first answer. I understand what you're trying to tell me. I just want to keep notes on the day and the weather, nothing too complex. So it's going to come back and say, oh, do not create a custom form for this. Maybe use the notes widget in the Infor OS portal instead. It's designed exactly for what you're trying to do, right? And so it's helping me solve my answer. It's trying to help me get to the best solution based on what I'm asking it. So I think that's a kind of a good example for how I can work through challenges and how I can work through questions that I as a user have without having to now send emails back and forth to an entire community. I'm able to get that resolved really quickly. Now, final thing I'm going to show, and then I will go ahead and I'll open it up for some questions. Let's say I need to understand, or I want to see, show me a diagram of the order to cash process. So I want it to diagram out for me a process that I've created in SyteLine. So not only do we have the ability to answer questions in text, but we also are going to have the ability to diagram out processes or think patterns, right? You can ask it to diagram kind of whatever you need. So in this case, here is our order to cash process from beginning to end as a diagram. And then it's going to go through and it's going to walk through that process in a paragraph format. Some follow-up questions, right? What forms do I use to create a customer order? How do I generate invoices for shipped orders, right? So it's taking a look at the question I asked, provided an answer, and then what are some recommended follow-ups that one may have on that question that I asked. So with that, I know we're kind of running up to about a half hour here, and I know we only have 45 minutes, so I do want to leave some time open for questions. Are there any questions that we have in the chat?
There are no questions in the chat right now.
Okay, perfect. So a couple things that I do want to follow up with. So 2 points. So number one, AgentX, absolutely available in commercial cloud, but we also have it available in the regulated industries cloud. So if you are a GovCloud customer running in the regulated industries cloud, this is available to deploy in that environment. And then secondary question that we have a lot of people asking is, okay, well, I want to directly pull data and ask questions about key specific data out of SyteLine. So that is the next item on our roadmap. We wanted to make sure that we got the regulated industries topic covered first. Now that we have the ability to deploy in both the commercial cloud and the gov cloud, accessing data is the next thing that we are doing. So I can ask it not only how do I, what is my order to cash process, but how many customer orders did I create today? We are going to be able to ask those questions very soon. Our stopgap between now and when that happens is we do have the ability to push reports into our knowledge base. So if you want to push any report that you print out of SyteLine, we can take that, push it into our knowledge base, so it will have the ability to digest and read and compare reports that we have sent into AgentX.
Hey, Dave.
Okay.
We do have two questions in the chat.
Sure.
Okay, the first one is regarding AgentX's ability to reference customizations or non-standard processes / use of forms. Does it rely on the knowledge base documentation, or is it able to reference the actual database level implementation?
Sure. So right now we are referencing the knowledge base. So we will go through and do. We can export out a form script and compare there. Once we have the data connection set up, it will look at, okay, here's exactly how our system is configured looking at the database schema. So we have a way to handle it now. once we have the database connection completely set up, it will be able to tell us in real time that answer.
Thank you. And then the second one is this using a public or private LLM?
Private LLM. Yep. So the entire system is running off of a private LLM. All of the environments are self-contained. So your environment obviously is walled off so that it's not creating a larger LLM and a larger knowledge base that other people are sharing. It's specific to each implementation.
We did have another question come in.
Sure.
Is AgentX available in a hybrid implementation environment?
Absolutely. Yep. So the nice thing about how AgentX works is it doesn't rely on where we have deployed CloudSuite Industrial SyteLine, right? So it can be pure, straight multi-tenant, regulated industries multi-tenant. You can be on-prem. You can also, regardless of the version that we are on, we can deploy and have it understand that as well. So if I'm on version 8, version 9, version 10, it doesn't matter for us. The only difference that you're going to see is, so we still will access it via a browser, regardless of your deployment. But it doesn't matter if you're on-prem or the version that you have, or if you are in GovCloud or Commercial Cloud. Was that it for the questions?
That is all that's in the chat right now.
Okay. Then I will give everyone about 10 minutes of their day back. If you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I think my contact information was in the invite. Feel free to reach out to any of us here at SolutionsX, and we can get you answers to the questions that you need. Or if you want to have a further detailed demonstration, please, again, feel free to reach out to me.